Ashnikko has just released their first album, Weedkiller, and we need to talk about it. Weedkiller is a concept album where fairies and machines essentially fight to the death. It's an extremely rich and layered album, not only on the musical side, but also in the visuals and world building. Here on the channel, we like to geek about cool art, especially if it involves fantasy. And once we're done fangirling, we look for ways to steal the awesome parts and infuse them in our own practice. So that's what we're gonna do. This video comes to you in 3 parts, and we're gonna figure out what we can steal from Weedkiller and how to apply it to our own creative projects. Part 1, World Building. Here's the concept of the album, and I quote, "The album is a commentary on environmental disaster and the rapid evolution of technology. It tells the story of a Fae civilization occupied and destroyed by machines that feed on organic matter, where the fairy protagonist seeks revenge by becoming part machine." There's a ton to unpack here, and I could make a whole hour-long deep dive dissecting how this is so well executed throughout the album, but for now, I want to focus on a few key elements. The visual language of Weedkiller is honestly incredible. You can tell that a massive team of artists was involved in crafting it because every detail feels very deliberate. One detail that I love is the fact that they created sigils for the Fae world. You can spot them in the music videos, but of course there's also the main Weedkiller sigil. Now, a sigil is a type of symbol used in magic, and sigils often represent a deity or a spirit. Actually, Wikipedia specifies that in the modern use of sigils, they tend to represent a desired outcome from whoever is using it. That's an interesting note because this album grapples with a lot of desire, yearning, anger. For the Weedkiller sigil to represent itself a place to get to, that makes sense to me. Also, I could be wrong, but I think the sigil represents this image, where Ashnikko, or I guess our Fae character, has transformed into a part machine creature. This juxtaposition of natural world and machines isn't super evident from a musical point of view. Ashnikko keeps talking about the album as fairy music, but most of the songs in Weedkiller lean more machine. The production is very electronic, the vocals are distorted, there's a lot of very satisfying metal clicks. So where is the fairy part? It's in the lyrics.
My roots in the pavement, no stimulation. I'm gonna photosynthesize. Forest reaches out to guide me. Blue fire paths of will-o-wisps.
This is where I introduce the part with actionable tips. Now, I wish I had come up with a better name for this section, but this is the best I've come up with. Get the look. The first thing you can steal from Ashnikko's Weedkiller is this: build a world and take it seriously. In order to do that, you can try to answer a few questions to try and flesh out the vibe. What is the visual language of your creation? In other words, how can you boil it down to a few simple shapes, a few simple colors? What does this world sound like and why? And if you were to live within it, how would it feel? What emotions would be most present? Part 2, depth. Weedkiller isn't just an album. It started as a short story that Ashnikko wrote a couple years ago, and now it's been fleshed out as its own world setting, a bunch of high production, vibey videos, a comic book written with DC, a D&D adventure, etc. The album is only one element of the Weedkiller lore, and each extra thing, whether it's a video or the comic book, helps flesh out the world even further, give it more dimension, more life. Personally, when I see the end result of a creation so large and sprawling, I can't imagine how it was created. But on top of being 2 years in the making, I think what makes the Weedkiller vibe so rich is 2 things. Number 1, the sheer amount of people who worked on it, and number 2, the wide sources of inspiration. I would love to get into all that and look at everyone involved in the Weedkiller project, but honestly, we don't have time. Although a special mention for the creative directors, the choreographer, the costume designers, the stylists, and now I'm getting sidetracked and I want to do all of them, but no. Ashnikko has shared some of the sources of inspiration that she had in creating the album, and it's interesting because there's loads of them, but it's easy to sort them into categories. We have Angel's Egg, Tank Girl, The Sandman, Dune. These all fall into the science fiction and fantasy box. There's also Mad Max, Horizon Zero Dawn, which are post-apocalyptic works. And finally, Princess Mononoke and FernGully, which are basically love letters to nature. Obviously, these themes are inherently related. We like to put nature and human creation in opposition to one another. The machine or technology as a concept has been a source of anxiety for humans ever since we started building stuff. And no, I don't have a source for that, but that feels right. Get the look. Ash actually shared a very practical thing they did in preparation for the album.
I have I made a big scrapbook of all my favorite legends. Cool inspo.
This is a cool opportunity to experiment with a wide range of media. You can put together a bunch of works that you love without focusing too much on the details. And once you've gathered everything that has kind of a similar vibe, then you can look for a through line. What is the common thread that all these things have? What kind of story could you draw from all of these things put together? This can also look like collaborating with artists who work in different media than you. It's a little bit trickier to pull off maybe, but you never know what could come out of it. Part 3, confidence. One critique I've heard of the world building in Weedkiller is that it's half-assed. And it's true, we don't know what this fairy world is called or who built the machines or anything like that. We have the overall theme of nature trying to strike back against an evil, destructive machine race, but that's kind of it. But my question is this: if it were more explicit, would it be better? I say no. Because we could probably poke holes if we had more information about the world. But the point of the album isn't to think, it's to feel. Ashnikko isn't trying to build a realistic fey society, they're expressing emotion. By explaining less, Weedkiller paints a mood. Dare I say, less is more. This isn't for everyone. For instance, Kendrick Lamar or Taylor Swift, to take two very different people. They share a lot of information in their lyrics. It's like an inner monologue thing. It's very, very detailed, whereas Ashnikko is all vibes. Get the look. In interviews about this album, Ashnikko kept saying that they're finally making the fairy music they wanted to make all along, rather than emulating the style of other musicians. I know I could definitely take a page out of their book and make work that is genuinely me, rather than what I think other people want to see. Another takeaway I have is to not over-explain. The audience doesn't need to be told everything. I don't know what each sigil means in Weedkiller or what exactly is happening in the story, but that doesn't keep me from being immersed in it. Plus, you can trust that if your work really resonates with someone, they will be more than happy to delve into it, to try to make sense of it, to figure it out, bring their own meaning to it. Ultimately, leaving things open to interpretation is cool, and probably easier and healthier for you as well, because it forces you to let go of the death grip you have on your creation. I guess what I'm saying is, be okay with less thoughts, more vibes. That's all I'm going to say about Weedkiller for today. Like I said before, there are a ton of talented creators who were involved in the making of this project, so I recommend looking into them if you want to delve a little further. I also want to know, if you've listened to the album, what is your favorite song? Mine is either Weedkiller or World Eater. I made another video about fantasy artists recently, so if you want more inspo, you should definitely check it out. Bye!